Tonight on CFTK-TV News, MP Ellis Ross prepares to swear in, new pickleball courts open in Terrace, and new funding for food access in Northwest BC.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Hello, and thanks for joining us on this Friday, May 23rd, 2025. I'm Jaylene Matthews. We begin tonight with our news local to the Northwest. An investment from the province will mean more reliable access to healthy food for people in northern BC. The Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction say this support for local projects will address unique food access challenges in rural, remote, and First Nations communities. It will also increase the capacity of food access organizations to meet increased demand for their services due to global inflation. This funding, part of $5 million announced in 2023, is distributed through two streams to support better food access in northern BC. Projects include using existing transportation networks to improve food delivery, building the first school farm in northern BC, which will provide fresh fruits and vegetables for school meals, constructing greenhouses in school communities, and partnering with Indigenous groups to support sustainable and culturally relevant food infrastructure. Velma Sutherland of Sikidak Glenvowel First Nations said this is a step toward revitalizing Gitxsan foodways, honoring the knowledge of our ancestors, respecting the animals that sustain us, and building a stronger, self-reliant future for our people. This investment is part of $200 million in funding announced in 2023 to strengthen the food supply chain throughout BC. The Terrace RCMP have made another bust in Terrace, but it didn't lead to any charges yet. RCMP say that as part of an ongoing investigation into drug trafficking, the Terrace Crime Reduction Unit executed a search warrant at a residence on Monroe Street on May 10th. They say 9 individuals in the residence were arrested. Mounties seized suspected cocaine, crystal meth, illicit pharmaceuticals, contraband tobacco, imitation firearms, and a large sum of cash. The arrested individuals were released with no process. However, RCMP say the file remains under investigation. Skeena MP Ellis Ross has now headed to Ottawa in order to be sworn into the new government, and he will be sworn in with a shadow minister appointment.
I actually just got appointed to be the shadow minister for environment for the Conservative Party. We're the official opposition in the House of Commons in Ottawa. It means a lot to me because that's where I got my start. I actually started looking into environmental issues in Kitimat back in 2003, 2004, which then led me to understand what Aboriginal rights and title was. But really, to understand all of that, I had to understand project development as well as the economy. So it really brings me back to my roots. Hopefully I have enough experience not only as an Aboriginal leader, but also as a past MLA in Victoria for Skeena. But also I want to know, where is Canada heading? The Liberals made some pretty heavy promises in terms of getting the economy going, given that the United States was imposing tariffs on Canada. Now, the Liberals promised to get the economy going by invoking the Emergencies Act, which I'm incredibly curious about, because invoking the Emergency Act usually means that you want to override some rules. So I'm kind of curious, what kind of rules will you override? Will it be environmental assessment rules? Will it be procedures? Will it be policies? Will it be workers' rights? Will it be Aboriginal rights? I have never seen any government in Canada invoke Emergency Act just to get an economy going. So there's a number of different things I'll be looking for in terms of where does Canada go in terms of its economy as well as its trade with the rest of the world.
And a lesser-known sport that's rising in popularity locally can now be played within a more practical setting in Terrace, a fact that was celebrated by the city last night. CFTK-TV's Kale Maslin has the story.
Yesterday evening saw the City of Terrace host an official neighborhood event to act as a soft opening for their brand new pickleball courts that are located near Skeena View Park and are right behind the Heritage Park Museum. And the idea for the creation of these new courts had initially come about a couple of years ago.
The city of Terrace was approached originally in 2023 by the Pickleball Club, expressing a need for additional pickleball courts as the sport has been rapidly growing in our community. And so we did look into this project for about a year before we decided to convert one of the tennis courts into 6 pickleball courts.
The repurposing of the courts was done over a 6-month or so span throughout the summer of 2024, and the City of Terrace's Parks and Recreation Director also gave some details on what the construction looked like and how the project went as a whole.
We did the project primarily in-house, so it was our maintenance crew that led the project. But we did contract out the fencing, but it involved sealing a lot of the cracks that were existing in the courts and then ordering the very specialized paint and painting the courts and then painting the lines. So all of that work was done by our maintenance staff. We were battling with some of the weather because it has to be a very particular temperature in order to paint with the specialized paint that we had to use. So it was either too hot or raining or too cold. But yeah, it was a great project and a lot of different people involved in the planning and implementation.
The rise in the sport's popularity in the local area has even led to Terrace's own mayor to consider giving it a shot at some point in the future.
I'm not going to try it out today because I got to get down to the soccer field and coach some soccer, but I do think I need to get out here soon and try out pickleball because it sure does seem like fun and it seems great. There's all ages playing pickleball, so it looks like a wonderful sport.
While the exact number of people who showed up to the event isn't currently known, the turnout was still fairly substantial as many people got to test out their skills and enjoyed the food that was provided there as well. For CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin.
Coming up next, wildfire destruction in Manitoba. Earlier this month, the Terrace RCMP returned a historically significant carved and hand-painted paddle to a Kitsim-Kalem Nation family. The paddle was initially found by the Vancouver Police Department, who then contacted the Indigenous Policing Services of the Terrace RCMP detachment and made sure that they were able to give it back to the Wesley family. The family lost the paddle several years earlier after it was taken during a residential break-and-enter. And several wildfires continue to burn in Manitoba. According to the province's fire map, 5 remain out of control. CTV's Alex Karpa caught up with a few residents who lost their properties and saw the devastation firsthand.
Yeah, that was our sea-doo over there and our dock.
Leanne Ross Martin is in shock. What once stood as her longtime family cabin in Lac du Bonnet has now turned into rubble from a wildfire that raged through the community last week.
Then we had our kitchen, which was right here.
Ross Martin is trying to make sense of the tragedy, only seeing what's left of her cabin for the first time this week.
I don't think you ever expect to see something like this, and it has shook us to the core for certain. We are devastated as a community, as property owners.
About 100 yards from me is a body of water, but where I'm standing right now, it's complete devastation. These are shingles from what once was a roof, but now completely turned to dust. This is just some of the devastation some residents in the Lac du Bonnet area are now dealing with.
It was beautiful green forest, surreal to look at it right now.
This is what Brad Wood's place looked like with that beautiful green forest as he described it, but the wildfire that ripped through his property has wiped all of that away.
In all honesty, it's how do you overcome this? Like, this is such a loss.
Wood is now calling for better planning and notification systems, saying he didn't even know he was supposed to evacuate until neighbors informed him of what was going on.
We had no preparedness, no warning. No advance notice. As you've found out now, there is no cell phone service right here.
As for what's next, Wood and Ross Martin say it's a long road ahead and hope to rebuild, but both agree that better safety measures need to be implemented before that process happens. Alex Karpa, CTV News, Lac du Bonnet, Manitoba.
If you're watching this, you're likely someone who cares about local news. As funding is squeezed and newsrooms close across the country, as Isabella Zavarisi reports, the institution of journalism is at stake.
Mario Bartel has spent decades covering local news in Metro Vancouver. capturing the voices that connect us.
You know, we're all very invested in our communities.
That investment cut short. In February, Glacier Media announced the closure of the Burnaby Now, the New Westminster Record, and the Tri-City News, where Bartel had worked for the last 8 years.
I'm sad for the people, for our communities, because they won't have us to tell, to go to share their stories.
The outlets published their last articles about a month ago, and the impact is already being felt. The media table at New Westminster City Hall now sits empty during council meetings.
I'm scared, actually. I'm scared for what it means for our community and what it means for our ability to talk about what's happening in our community.
Some municipalities, including Port Moody, are trying to fill the news gap. In April, council approved a new communications approach to share what it's working on. New Westminster's mayor doesn't think cities can replace journalists.
We're not journalists. It's a very different thing for us to communicate to the community, but to have journalists actually vetting the information that's coming out and holding us to task, keeping us truthful.
One Canadian research institute analyzed the decline of journalism across the country. It found that about 2.5 million Canadians live in a postal code with no local news.
And that's the real danger here, is if you don't have local journalists covering it, someone else will substitute for it, often with misinformation.
For Bartel, he worries who will cover city council, school board meetings, and those who shape our cities.
There's nobody to tell those stories, and you wonder what the cost of that is going to be.
Isabella Zavarisi, CTV News, New Westminster.
Turning to the weather, the sun rose in the northwest at 5:13 a.m. this morning and sets at 9:49 p.m. tonight. Tonight on the north coast, expect about 10 to 20 millimeters of rain. Winds from the southeast at 30 kilometers an hour, except gusting to 70 over exposed coastal sections late this evening and overnight, a low of 7 degrees. Over the next few days on the north coast, expect the rainy days to continue through the weekend and into next week. Temperatures sitting between 10 and 12 degrees, overnight lows between 7 and 12 degrees. Tonight in the Terrace Kitimat area, expect showers with winds from the south at 20 kilometers an hour, gusting to 40, a low of 8 degrees. Over the next few days in the Terrace Kitimat area, expect the rain to continue with daily temperatures between 11 and 13 degrees, overnight lows between 5 and 11 degrees. Tonight in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, expect conditions to be mainly cloudy, with a 60% chance of showers and a low of 5 degrees. Over the next few days in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, expect a mix of clouds and showers throughout the weekend and getting into the week. Daily temperatures between 13 and 20 degrees, overnight lows between 6 and 10 degrees. Checking your northwest highways now. On Highway 16, there's construction work as well as industrial traffic. Expect delays. Watch also for bridge maintenance, road sweeping, and utility work. On Highway 37, there's industrial traffic. Expect delays as well as bridge construction, frost heaves, and shoulder maintenance. On Highway 37A, watch for falling rocks. And on Highway 118, there's roadside brushing going on. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come, a royal visit in the works. A royal visit is in the works as King Charles and Queen Camilla are to visit. Here's CTV's Natalie Van Roy.
King Charles and Queen Camilla arrive in Ottawa on Monday. It will be Charles' 20th visit to the country. What makes this exceptional? His first visit as king.
Very exciting. Very excited to see them here in person and to make an appearance.
The central focus of the King's visit to deliver the speech from the throne and to assert Canada's sovereignty.
We are a constitutional monarchy and our king is King Charles. And I think he is coming here to let the world know that we're in this sort of fight, if you will, together with the United States and with tariffs, that we are going to stay strong.
There are chances for the public to witness history according to an itinerary by Canadian Heritage. Day 1 includes the royals arriving Monday at the Ottawa International Airport. King Charles and Queen Camilla will then travel to Lansdowne Park to meet community organizations and the public for 1:50 p.m. The second stop of the day at Rideau Hall for 2:50, where the couple will take part in a public ceremonial tree planting and also meet privately with Prime Minister Mark Carney and Governor General Mary Simon.
In 2022, when we had them in town, we did see a little uptick in British visitation in Ottawa. We sure hope that people will come to Ottawa, try to do some king spotting.
Day 2 of the itinerary on Tuesday starts on Wellington Street for 9:50. King Charles and Queen Camilla will travel along Wellington from the Bank of Canada to the Senate of Canada, using Canada's state carriage drawn by horses of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police musical ride. Then at 10:15, Charles will receive full military honors, including a royal salute. And at 11 a.m., he will deliver the speech from the throne to open the 45th Parliament.
Is a kind of signal to Donald Trump, like that perhaps we aren't for sale.
The final stop on the itinerary includes the King and Queen laying a wreath and flowers at the tomb of the unknown soldier at the National War Memorial. Natalie Van Roy, CTV News.
A strike has been averted for now, but it is still not business as usual for Canada Post. CTV's Genevieve Beauchemin explains.
Mail is still moving, delivery trucks hitting the road, but business has slowed, says Canada Post.
We're operating on fumes. Canadian customers and everybody is avoiding the post office because they don't want their items to be trapped. So our volumes are down significantly.
An all-out strike was averted last night, but the union issued a countrywide ban on overtime for its 55,000 members, so postal workers are sticking to regular hours. And more job action could come. The union is reviewing an offer management put on the table Wednesday.
We are evaluating the 700-page detailed offer that Canada Post has given us. We were at the bargaining table yesterday to discuss certain aspects of it, and we're hoping that we'll have a good collective agreement that would be ratified by our members.
Among sticking points, the percentage of a salary increase, weekend deliveries, and part-time workers. Canada Post says this dispute comes at a critical time as the service deals with mounting losses. Now, foundations like those for cancer research are urging donors to stick to online giving, warning against checks stuck in the mail. And the uncertainty surrounding the threat of another strike and job actions are driving business owners to other options, even though that comes at a cost.
Even things like surge pricing start to happen among those couriers. So not only is it the regular cost, but now they're charging an extra fee because now they have more load than they normally did.
And for some in rural areas, Canada Post, now operating through job action, is the only game in town. And so that letter or that package could now take longer to get to customers.
Turning to the stock markets now. The Canadian dollar rose over ½ cent. The price of gold rose $62.70. Oil rose by 56 cents. Natural gas rose by 6 cents. Aluminum dropped by $15. In Toronto, the TSX rose by almost 26 points. The Venture Index rose by 8. In New York, the Nasdaq fell by 189 points and the Dow Jones dropped by 256. Still ahead, slowing down to enjoy nature. The future of Canadian students at an American Ivy League is in question. Here's CTV's Heather Wright with more.
Nearly 7,000 international students now find themselves in the crosshairs of the Trump administration's ongoing battle with Harvard University.
It's extremely nerve-wracking. There's just so much
panic, frustration.
Canadian economics student Thomas Mate is among those worried about the Trump administration's decision yesterday to block international students from attending Harvard.
I think just students in my position now have no other choice but to remain hopeful. So much of our lives are tied up at Harvard, so much of our ongoing work and our tuition as well. But there's just so much at stake for all of us.
Today, a judge issued a temporary restraining order against the federal government after Harvard filed a lawsuit accusing the Trump administration of a, quote, campaign of retribution against the university. The White House has been locked in a fierce battle with Harvard, accusing them of not doing enough to combat anti-Semitism on campus, criticism that stems in part from campus protests last year over the war in Gaza. Today, the president said the order might go beyond Harvard to other schools.
Well, we're taking a look at a lot of things.
Harvard says these executive orders are all about control. In its lawsuit, Harvard says the Trump administration is exerting clear retaliation for Harvard exercising its First Amendment rights to control Harvard's governance, curriculum, and the ideology of its faculty and students.
It's clearly blackmail. It's a financial blackmail.
Anna Triandafilidou is a migration researcher at Toronto Metropolitan University and says while colleges and universities in both Canada and the U.S. can do better when it comes to fighting racism and anti-Semitism, she says schools must also stand up for their independence.
What we're talking about here is independence. Is recognizing the role and the right of higher education and universities to be places of critical thinking.
Roughly 750 Canadian students attend Harvard and are caught up in this fight. Among them, the Prime Minister's daughter.
We leave you tonight with a reminder to stop and appreciate the little things in life. Here's CTV's Adam Sawatsky.
Well, the baby birds don't seem to have a care in the world. The same couldn't always be said for Alan.
Thinking of what I have to do today, what I have to do tomorrow, worried about politics, worried about the news.
The sorts of things Alan would joke and debate about with his friends.
Our main thing was to have grumpy old guys' lunches.
Yet here he is now, watching a gaggle of goslings indulge in their lunch.
Being in nature softens the edges.
Like sandpaper can smooth the roughest wood, downy birds seem to have the power to soften the toughest people.
Takes the edges off.
Which is why Alan started, at least 4 days a week, to stop at places like this.
It's just a way of clearing my mind.
Which can make room to see all sorts of things, including this new feathered family, differently than we did.
It's a cycle of life to see animals in nature as well as to deal with your own mortality.
And that's why, after appreciating the birds, Alan will wander over to the water.
And I always just come up beside the bench here.
To visit the bench dedicated to his late friend, Jack.
I learned from him to be more tolerant and to listen to people and to just accept the way they are.
And instead of being overwhelmed by the politics that divide us or the news that worries us, these moments have taught Alan to focus on what connects and comforts us.
Take care of each other. Be aware of your friends, your family, and your community, and do what you can.
And on this journey, from the beginning of life to the inevitable end of it, take the time to relish every moment in between. Adam Sawatsky, CTV News, Victoria.
That's our news for now. For more local news, visit us at cftktv.com. We're also on Blue Sky, YouTube, X, and TikTok. Thanks for watching and have a great weekend.